What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Live show, the first live show we've done since the draft, since we did dual streaming on days 2 and days 3 with Steelers Nation Australia with Marky D, who is killing it at the moment. 1 million live streams, 1 million people in those live chats. Really good comments. Awesome with his membership as well. It's just awesome to be able to talk Steelers with him and his community. As we did over the draft break. Of course, we've got some cross-community guys like the guys in my live chat right now, J-Devil, for example. So it was just awesome to have it. I think on day 3, at one point, we had 6 or 7 different people on from that represent something like 6 to 7 different Steelers podcasts. So it's been an epic week. I will admit I'm feeling pretty tired and drained. I've had a lot going on in my day job to start the week as well. So it's been a kind of a crazy time, but we've got to keep pushing through. There's been a lot of videos on the channel as well, so I appreciate a lot of people liking and commenting and watching, whether you've watched 1 of them or 4 of them or 5 of them or however many it is. There's been 2 a day for a little while. We probably won't keep up the pace of 2 a day every day, the 2 a day practices if you like. But there's lots of news going on at the moment. Obviously, Omar Khan did the interview with Pat McAfee in the last 12 hours, whatever it is. I woke up to it. It's almost midday my time here in Australia. And it was interesting how Debo Harrison popped by. They asked all the wide receiver questions. Obviously, I did a show about wide receivers that came out in the last 24 hours. We did a show on Najee Harris as well. And yeah, George, I'm getting closer. I'm really keen to do the 500 with some cool things that YouTube lets me do when it gets to 500 as well. So I'm going to get pushing. Once we get to 500, we'll go to 1,000. Once we get to 1,000, we'll keep going. It's kind of like being like the rookie wide receiver or the rookie running back and just going for more. So yeah, that's it. And Mark says as well, just got done watching Philly lay down for the Knicks. Can't wait for some football. Nice. Yeah, Knicks having a good season. So that's good stuff for them. Pretty happy being a Timberwolves fan to finally see them do something for the first time in like 20 years though. So that's also cool. Mate, honestly, I saw the clip so briefly. I saw Brady got fat. It's just my, I don't know. It's just, maybe it's the dumb Australian thing. I don't know. I don't know. Just Tom Brady fat. For those of you that are tuning in live or you're watching this on replay, effectively this is the clip of Debo Harrison going up to Sean Sweesom in the airport. I saw it once. I'm like, man, Brady's got fat. I brought it up at I think it was 2 a.m. in the live stream that we did on day 3, or maybe it was even day 2. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was Tom Brady got fat. Post Giselle, not on the diets, not on the. Wasn't he eat avocado ice cream or some stuff? I like avocado, but I don't like avocado ice cream. That's not a good time. Ice cream's got to be like a sugary, chocolate flavor, a vanilla flavor, an OG flavor, not freaking avocado. For those of you out there that eat avocado ice cream, good luck. It must be very expensive though. I don't know. I don't know how it can be affordable. But back to Steelers. Obviously, a lot of hype around. Are they getting a wide receiver? Are they not? Everyone's covered the Bryant McFadden thing. I was thinking about this show before the draft, and I was like, I want to see who they get in the draft. But do the Steelers have a triple threat offense? So there's a bunch of different things we're going to have a look at. I've done a bit of prep for this one, but I also wanted to sort of think about this live. Tap into the people in the live chat, your perspectives as well. I know it's late over in the US as well. No avocado. Do you like choc mint? Yeah, choc mint's a good flavor. It depends what brand. Some people do choc mint really well. Other people, it's disgusting. Yeah. So Mark brings it up as well when we talk about triple threat offense because Yin's mates. Mark Lancaster says, "What do Yin's mates know about this UDFA QB Plumlee? I hear he got a 35 grand signing bonus. This is rare air for the Berg. Yes, I think it's one other bloke that got a 40K a couple of years ago. I think Warren got a little bit, but." Someone else got 40K 2 or 3 years ago. They say it's a Taysom Hill. Yeah, so it was funny. So I broke the Beanie Bishop stuff pretty quickly. In fact, I beat NFL.com. I actually saw the news. I just been to the toilet. I came back to my phone. I went on Steelers.com and then put out the statement that they'd signed the 5 UDFAs. Like literally, I got it within like 6 minutes. I wasn't going to do a show. It was like 4 or 5. It was like 2 hours or something, an hour and a half after the live stream finished. I was wrecked. I was trying to, I need to go have a shower and go have some lunch with we're going out for lunch with my wife. And I said, no, I'm going to have to hold. We're going to have to be a little bit late. I need to do this video. And while I was reading it out to everyone, I was reading it live, I'd literally just seen 5 UDFAs. No, it was Beanie Bishop. We're going on air. We'll talk more about Beanie Bishop. And while I'm reading out, I'm hearing Plumlee and I'm hearing like a little bit of wide receiver. I'm hearing the yardage, all that sort of stuff. I sort of said at the time he threw for a bit of touchdowns, bit of yards. But I think my statement on Plumlee was like, you're throwing for all of that, but like, you know, a bit of production, but nothing like spectacular necessarily. So, Mark, you will be pleased to know I've started doing some planning, some research, quick reading, trying to make sure I do a really good job of this and comparing him to guys like Taysom Hill. I was looking at this. There's another video on Logan Lee. There's a video on Ryan Watts. Like, I've got about 5 or 6 different ideas that I'm mulling around at the moment. The next video that will go live on the channel will be my draft value. I've done it a bit differently. Everyone else is doing grades and, Steelers got this guy in the 3rd round. They should have gone the 1st round. Fine, but I'm going to actually add some numerical weight to that. So I'm doing all those. I've just got to do some pure maths on a couple of things left. That should come out tomorrow. And then, of course, on Friday, I do my pre-record with Shannon White. We do our pre-record for all the different global perspective stuff. So that'll be out as well. But there's a lot of videos I know people are catching up on because there's videos on McCormick and Lee that we did on the channel. And I've noticed that they didn't necessarily do so well in the first 24 hours. But after that, they're picking up almost double the views. But at a high level, Mark, he does look like he could be a Taysom Hill kind of player. And it's really nice because the Steelers didn't have to use a draft pick on the 3rd quarterback. I mean, they've got like Kyle Allen on the board, obviously, as the 3rd quarterback right now. I could see him as just the camp body. I'm not sold that he's on the roster. At least you give yourself a chance at Plumlee, or if he can become that wide receiver type. It's a bit like having Cordell Stew in the building. Also, Kyle Allen's not that sort of dual threat quarterback, which is interesting because on this show we're going to be talking about triple threat offense. Plumlee is more that gives you an option of a dual threat in a different way, being a potential wide receiver. So that's kind of interesting, and that gives him sort of, I think, an edge on Allen as well. Marky D is in the house. Always good to support our mates. Jedel says mint chalky equals toothpaste chalky. Fair enough. I like it. You got 46 going. So, yeah, Plumlee's going to be an interesting one, but I think this goes back into, is the Steelers a real triple threat offense? So we're going to look at a couple of different things. I'm going to try and keep it pretty high level for you guys as well. I think the first place to start is really around running backs, right? Now, we know, I mean, Marky D showed it. I showed it in my video last night on Najee Harris and the 5th-year option. But this is what Mike Tomlin wants to do, which doesn't really sound like a real triple threat offense.
We just want to roll people, man, to be honest with you guys. You know, we got some backs that we like.
You know, so that doesn't sound on the face of it like a triple threat offense. Like, we got backs that we like. We want to roll people. But if you want to roll people, you have got to keep creative. And you got to think as well, like, how are you going to be able to roll people? How are you going to keep the defense guessing? And this is where Arthur Smith comes in, because we've all heard of what we've heard and we've seen what he did at Tennessee, what he was trying to do at Atlanta. But a lot of people, like, the organization in front of us never supported him and what he wanted to do. But the ability to use wide receivers in sweep and runs. And I mean, the sweep is a touchy point if you're a Steelers fan, because you immediately get the heebie-jeebies about, like, Matt Canada. You then think about it from the perspective of using tight ends and how they work. Now, it's easy to just say they're receivers, but tight ends in themselves, if they're a receiving tight end and they can block, they become dual threat in themselves. They become triple threat because you can use them run pass game, or you can use them even in the screen game as well to screen for a quarterback run in the option plays and the RPOs. So they're a really interesting point of view. And this is why I was quite keen on the Steelers drafting a tight end late in the NFL draft, because Washington hasn't proved he can receive. Freemuth can't stay healthy, even though he can do both. There were some better dual threat tight ends, or not necessarily better than him in terms of better being a receiver, but people that were kind of a little bit better at doing both that were available late in this class, certainly last year's class. But then you've got guys like Cordell Patterson, who's a running back wide receiver hybrid. Again, was really high on them drafting. Malachi Corley as well. Just going to get water. My throat's killing me. Yeah, so Malachi Corley could have been an interesting option. But it's also why you're starting to hear things like a Deebo Samuel. And Mark Lancaster is really brought up another comment. We're going to bring that up. What's up, Fuzzy? Because we're going to look at Roman Wilson. He's one of the guys I'm about to pull up on the stream right now. But you look at the idea of bringing in Debo in. Now, on my wide receiver video, we talked about this, why it doesn't make sense so much Debo. Why a Terry McLaurin would be a perfect sort of guy, similar size, but more wide receiver than running back. But the Steelers, for a triple threat offense, need to have a quarterback with mobility. That's what Mike Tomlin saw in Kenny Pickett. That was the one thing they kind of liked. It didn't turn out that way. But Russ Wilson, early on in his career, less known now, but Justin Fields are dual threat quarterbacks. That means, obviously, run and pass. That also means that when they pass, we then get in the triple threat offense and how it is with the receivers as well. So really, really interesting in terms of the way we're built. We're also built to run the rock. So between the quarterbacks being able to run, the running backs being able to run, and the quarterbacks obviously being able to throw the football, we start to enter into this concept of, do we have a triple threat offense? You can say yes on paper, the Steelers look like they've got a triple threat offense. But how good is it? And Mark, you brought up Roman Wilson, and this is going to be really important because I think he's the key linchpin in this. And it's also why if they don't make a move at wide receiver, do I think they're going to make a move at wide receiver to add a bona fide equal second guy, third guy, because it's a lot to ask for Roman Wilson. Otherwise, Vance Jefferson is your second guy. 100% I do. But if they didn't, I still think they've got options. In fact, I have Cordarrelle Patterson listed as a wide receiver running back, not down as a running back. JF52's in the house. What's up, Nate? First in on almost everything. I always love the kangaroo. It's always good when someone else does a kangaroo. I like that. That might have to be our little, your little emoji thing if you guys don't use it for Mark's channel as well. I like that little emoji tag. I'm big on emojis. So let's look into, considering what we're talking about Roman Wilson, let's talk about Roman Wilson. I'm not, I was going to bring him up later in the discussion, but let's just go straight to him. Roman Wilson, 1,700 yards in college, 16-yard average receptions. That is huge. Played a bit of slot, bit of outside as well. Probably projects more as a slot wide receiver in the NFL. Yards from the line of scrimmage, he has 1,824. So it wasn't really used on rush yardage plays. He's run it 7 times on rushing yards for 117 yards, 16.7 average, not bad, 2 TDs. He could be something they did. Remember when they used Claypool? Claypool wasn't really used in that sort of game that much for Notre Dame, if at all. But because he was more of this big, you got to throw it out in space, otherwise Claypool doesn't do anything. And yet the Steelers in his rookie year, he had 4 of these rushing touchdowns. It was 4 that basically were in the red zone and really close to the end zone, right? Obviously. So that's kind of interesting. You also look at Roman Wilson from the fact he only had 107 targets at Michigan. Not 107 targets, 107 receptions, with 48 last year, 25 the year before, and 25 the year before. But at the margins at which he had it, he broke them for big plays. Like 25 receptions for 420 yards is an average, if you see on his screen, of 16.8. Then he had 25 receptions in 2022 for 15 yards. So the guy is a big play guy, but he's not necessarily used to putting up the numbers or expects, and that's the key part, expects to put up the numbers of a George Pickens, of a Deontay Johnson. And this is like really, really, really a good thing for a triple threat offense, because this is a guy that's going to be able to block. You can maybe use him in the sweep game. You might be able to use him in some of these setup runs, some of the play action stuff as well. I really like the addition of Roman Wilson, and it says a lot. He's an Arthur Smith fit at wide receiver. He's a run the rock guy. We've already said before, he said he was in a run heavy college team. He said this coming out of the job. He said, no rock, no block, or no block, no rock, right? So this guy's not afraid to block, but he's also offers you everything you want in a twitchy, playmaking, high, fast release, big yardage, take on the cornerbacks, particularly in the zone game, wide receiver. He is a absolute. The more I think about it, I woke up this morning and I was hearing when I heard watching the Omar Khan video and another Steelers video as well from the Steelers website. I kind of thought to myself, this guy's an absolute freaking steal. You think about where Ricky Pearsall went, and they're slightly different style wide receivers. Roman Wilson is a real steal to get that guy in there at 84. He definitely is second round grade. And Mark says Michigan has a tradition with the jersey number 1. They only give it to the best receiver on the team. Needless to say, his former number was 14. So it's kind of crazy. Like I think that the Chargers would have loved to have had him. Obviously they got McConkey, which I thought was interesting as well. But McConkey I think they needed a possession wide receiver losing Keenan Allen. But you kind of wonder, because they went and got Rice late and then got someone else, you kind of wonder if Harbaugh had been able to pick him. Harbaugh did need a linebacker, and of course he was going to pick Colson. That made total sense for them. You kind of wonder whether he would have tried to get Roman Wilson. Fuzzy says, if the Steelers were going to get a wide receiver, they would have already done so. Yeah, this is the interesting part, except when I covered it in the wide receiver video I did last night of like, you wait till you use all your 2024 draft capital, and then you just can only trade your 2025 or your 2026 capital. You've already got your guys, and the market goes down on the guys. But you are right. And this is the point that I found, and I briefly mentioned it in the wide receiver video last night. I think I'm going to have to link that after this because in case anyone missed it. It actually makes sense more. So the Steelers might need to do it now because there are other teams looking to trade from them. And that's kind of what it was alluded to in the Omar Khan video with Pat McAfee, is that like you don't want to give away your tricks. I watched a little bit of Deke's video on it. He talked about Omar Khan denying everything, and then he does something anyway. Of course, that's as Mark said on his show just now. It is the company line. Of course, you're not going to tell someone you're going to do something. Steelers might have to make a move now so that they don't lose out on the wide receiver they like. But actually, what would be better for the Steelers and what would be better for the other teams involved with a couple of the candidates, whether it's a Metcalf or a Terry McLaurin or some of those guys, is to do it post June 1, because there are different implications on the cap hits and the dead cap money for the team that wide receiver comes from, and then also what Steelers do. But I agree with Jer and Marky D as well. For the fact of the matter, you want that wide receiver, not just Pickens, getting as comfortable with Russell Wilson and with Justin Fields ASAP. I did actually look as well at DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney, and I wondered whether they could be interesting options for Steelers. But Darnell Mooney only just signed a new contract. I think that's with Atlanta. DJ Moore, that he's going to be a really prime target for getting Caleb Williams adjusted. So I don't fully see them making that move. As you'll see, I outlined in that video last night, I really like Terry McLaurin. I think he would be my favorite option. He's an affordable option. He's the best part of youth and experience with good value and money. Massive threat down the field, would stretch the defense, would open up George Pickens, and then it would open up running lanes as well. So that's kind of cool. Busy with new students. I love it. So that was some of the Roman Wilson element. Again, it was actually going to come later in my discussion, but that's cool. Let's go to the Russie and Justin Fields element, because this is going to be really key in terms of when we think about a triple threat offense, right? Now, Russell Wilson is someone that obviously storied career, Super Bowl, went to another Super Bowl. They chose not to run the rock. It's infamous now. I'm going to look at last year specifically first, and we can delve into both of them, deeper on terms of their career to date. But if you look at last year, Russ played in 15 games. Justin played in 13 games, had a very similar AV. That's an approximation value that Pro Football Reference give, which basically weights a guy's production against everyone at their position. 13 is pretty good. 13 is pretty good at each position, and actually shows the league can say, oh, yeah, this trash thing, that trash play. He didn't do this. He pissed off the team there. He had this fumble. But pure production-wise, that's pretty good in a quarterback year. 13 to 17, somewhere in that mark, more like 15 in a really competitive year will get you a Pro Bowl, or even potentially an All-Pro above that. So, I think All-Pro season at quarterback, you have to get about an AV of about 16, 17. So it's pretty high, though, particularly when you're talking about a quarterback record of 5-8 for Fields. We're talking about a 7-8 for Russell Wilson as well. Pass yards per attempt is exactly the same between these two blokes last year. That's passing. We all know that these guys can pass the football. Russ threw for more yardage. Russ had a better passing percentage. Much better than Kenny Pickett. Better than Mason, I think, as well. I think it was 63, 64%. Much better than Trubisky. So Russell's automatically an upgrade there. Interceptions, they had the same, but Russell Wilson had a lot more TDs. Probably set up in a better overall offense than Fields, just in terms of the cohesion, the chemistry, all those sorts of things. But rushing attempts. Russ had 80 for 340 yards, an average of 4.3. Not shabby. Not too shabby at all. Fields, 657, as we know. He's that dual threat quarterback. 5.3 average, 4 rush TD. But both gentlemen can run the football, or at least are mobile quarterbacks. More mobile than Kenny Pickett, more mobile than Mitch Trubisky, and more mobile than Mason Rudolph. Now, that You can know on paper. I'm not Nostradamus by telling anyone this. We all know this. But when you look at it like this and how similar the overlap in numbers is, the Steelers have literally got Justin Fields now able to sit behind Russell Wilson. And Justin Fields may well start. Greg Cosell of NFL Films reckons Justin Fields will start. But we've got very similar guys. So if one guy's injured or one guy's got a niggle, you're not forced to play one bloke over the other. Do I think the Steelers need a bell cow quarterback? It seems such an odd phrase to say, unlike their new strategy with actually listening to the rest of the NFL and having dual threat running backs. Yes, I do think they need that guy. But we're not going to fall over into a heap if let's say one of them gets a concussion, one of them has a 3-week injury that overlaps near the bye, whatever it is, it's a Thursday night game and they're not quite ready to go because they've copped some ridiculous hit. This is where the Steelers, the acquisitions that they've made at the cost they've made it is absolutely crazy. So these guys are dual threat. But the other thing that's interesting is already people are starting to cook up the ideas of what if you put these guys on the field at the same time, right? That opens up a whole new triple threat, in my mind, phase of the game in terms of offense where these guys could be throwing the ball to each other. I joke with Marky D, first TD, you're staying in his live chat on Steelers Nation show. I joke that perhaps the first touchdown is a flea flicker to Russell thrown by Fields. That would be pretty crazy. But the Steelers can do some crazy things. We were talking about on the live stream on, I think it was day 3, Shannon White talked about some things they wanted to try back in the day as well. So this is kind of where the Steelers start to get really, really creative. And it's funny, we're talking about all of this in reverse to what I was planning on it, but that's okay, because I'm going to show you guys something pretty cool in a sec. But you look at Russie overall, definitely a guy that's rushed and thrown for a bunch of yardage. I wanted to pull up his rush yards, though, particularly, because this was kind of interesting when I was looking at it earlier, but Pro Football Reference is not working for me. Bring it up. Come on, rushing. Yeah. So rushing overall, he's rushed for 5,307 yards. He has 333 first downs. And this is the point I wanted to make when I talked about running backs last night with Najee Harris. First downs give you continuity in your drives. The longer a drive occurs in time, obviously harder if it puts more pressure on the opposing team. But there's also NFL stats that show that the more first downs you get in a drive, the longer you sustain your drive, the more likely you are to score points. That's obvious. You're obviously going to go down the field. But the idea that you are rushing as a quarterback to get the first down is huge, because when it's 3rd and 5 or it's 2 and 7 or it's 2 and 4, the ability to put guys on the field that the defense has to think about, then create a running lane or create the way that the play breaks down, might be because of the defense or whatever, the quarterback's able to rush. It's a really big deal in being able to make sure you hold the ball and you get more attempts at scoring. The Steelers didn't have sometimes many drives because the turnovers the defense scored, but the time of the drive and the amount of plays per drive was really small. And that became a problem because then when they got to the red zone, and they did get there more than what they had the previous year, they couldn't execute. Being able to continue that first downs and grinding that defense into the ground is really, really important. And that's something that I said in the show last night about the running back in Najee Harris and should he get the 5th-year option, is that yes, Jaylen Warren takes some of those things from him, but if you look at the top running backs, he's literally like only 60% in terms of the first downs that he creates. And that's something is a reason why he might be worth $8 or $9 million a year and not worth like 12 or 13 million a year. Because when a team looks at what you're contributing to that offense, then it's not just their touchdowns, it's not just the yardages. How are you contributing within the overall piece of the offense? And first downs are going to be, and more first downs and sustaining drives has to be one of the main objectives of why they brought in Arthur Smith. It was one of the reasons why Canada was so crap, because on 3rd down, he'd try and do it for 5 yards and not go 10 yards. Why? I could never understand why are we throwing the ball backwards effectively or at the line of scrimmage when we're 6 or 7 yards, to get the next down. Or, it makes zero sense. Football is a game of maths. You've got to go 10 yards in 4 plays. It can't be that freaking hard. Lucky D says he can't remember day 3. So from that perspective, 333 first downs over his 12-year career is pretty freaking good. From a rushing, and this is from rushing perspective, it's not even passing perspective. And then you look at obviously touchdowns, he's got 30 in his career. He pretty much averages just about 2.5 a year. Fine, right? He's had some years better than others. You look at Justin Fields, he's been in the league a lot less time, obviously drafted in 2021. Now we're considering the fifth-year option. But when you look at him overall, when you look at Justin Fields overall, he's got a heap of rushing first downs because obviously he rushes the football a lot more. For him, we're talking like 130 first downs across like 3 years of performance. That's pretty cool to see. That is a lot. We've got a yardage that's pretty high. We look at some of the TDs as well. He's doing pretty good there. So from that perspective, the Steelers definitely have quarterbacks that are dual threat. That gives them opportunities to then work out how do they use them in creative ways. So again, we're starting to think, do we have this triple threat offense as well? The other guy that I wanted to look at, but we're going to go into some other sort of stats first, is Connor Haywood. Connor Haywood is a perfect example of getting someone that is a triple threat bloke. The guy can block, the guy can receive, the guy can run the rock. It's again a situation with Cordell Patterson. He also helps support them on this triple threat. I've lost the screen. I was going to show you guys. Press the back button. But he's also a guy that's like a triple threat player. And so Cordell Patterson, Connor Haywood, they're both in this scenario. You actually saw a little bit of also Pat Freiermuth getting the ball last year, like on the flat or throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage and trying to bury over the line. I saw them try, I think with Washington like twice. And I was like, I really hope that they start to do that more in the future. So from that perspective, I think it's also going to be really interesting in terms of how the Steelers use their blokes in interesting and creative ways. Marky D talked about the other day. It's something I actually have been doing Madden for a little while. And we talked about, he was a little bit similar to the Kendrick Green at fullback thing. He's Darnell Washington. He could be the biggest fullback in the NFL. He could do some awesome things with like tush-push kind of stuff. Mark Lancaster says, Shannon Schrader's his Frazier jersey for Roman Wilson. Did he? When did he say that? He said to me he's getting a Frazier jersey. That's ridiculous. JJ52 says Fields and Wilson should fusion. Yeah, like Dragon Ball Z come together. The earrings. I think they do wear earrings as well. But that would be so funny, Justin Wilson. That's hilarious. George Teston brings it up. McCormick, and we're proceeded where I was going to go to with the O-line draft picks. But yes, I definitely think McCormick on a fullback play could be really interesting. Dan Moore's not a swing tackle, but Dan Moore is pretty athletic. You could look at options where on a particular play, and I know we never want to see him at left tackle again, but on a particular play, you line him up at left, you line Broderick up, and you actually have Fatanu, who's super, super, super athletic in there doing something really, really creative. Like during the draft process, Rhett Lewis on Move the Stick said to Jeremiah Bucky Brooks, it would be hard to argue the case that you wouldn't draft Fatanu as a triple threat O-lineman because he's agile enough to play and he's big enough, obviously, with his size and even height to be a blocking tight end, right? Now, obviously, we kind of got that in Darnell. Like Darnell is technically a lower weight, but a bigger bloke in many ways than Fatanu. So the Fatanu is like absolutely explosive. Like every pound of muscle and every pound on that bloke is used explosively. You're just staring at us. But yeah, back to what Georgia was saying. They've now got options with the O-line. So we may as well go there before I go and pick apart some other stats around last year and looking at the Arthur Smith, Justin Fields, and Russell Wilson impacts on their offenses. But what the Steelers invested in at O-line, including with Frazier as well, they created guys that can pull. Created guys. They brought guys in that can pull. They brought athleticism in. They brought guys in that can get to the second level and make those blocks. And that's going to open up the option play from the quarterbacks to be able to run the rock. It's also going to open up spots where we're going to see people be able to do things in motion and behind the line of scrimmage, which Arthur Smith has already alluded to, which makes Connor Haywood, it makes Cordell Patterson, it makes a Roman Wilson. I mean, even George Pickens on some of those different sweep plays, that kind of thing, could be a really crazy pick. And so if the Steelers can go get this next wide receiver weapon that we're rumored to, I mean, we haven't even talked about Warren in the passing game yet, but not just the running game as well, and in the blocking game. Like, he is a dual threat or a triple threat running back. Najee Harris is not used nearly enough in the short passing game. It's my criticism across this offense from the Ben's last year in 2021 to now. Where the heck is Najee Harris in the short passing game? He should be there, especially when they play the Baltimore Ravens, so he can run freaking Nate Wiggins over like a steam train, right? But Najee can also block a bit too, particularly with Warren. Warren is more considered of that all-rounder triple threat running back, but they could get Najee there. And with Najee looking a little bit less bulk and a little bit more, let's call it lean muscle, and lean muscle per pound scientifically is stronger than mass muscle as well. So this could be pretty worrying for the rest of the NFL if he's trimmed down, but he's kept the same strength. That is a big problem for the rest of the NFL. So we've got triple threat running backs. We've got almost triple threat quarterbacks, particularly if you look at a Plumlee, who could throw, run, and catch the football. Fields could catch that football. He's plenty athletic enough to do that. I don't really see Russie lining up a wide receiver, but on a creative play, you could definitely have Fields on the field. So that's kind of crazy. While we're on the O-line, before I get to looking at some other stats, we will bring up Mark's comment. He brought up first. Since Furtado is super athletic, didn't Ian suppose he could stay at left and keep Jones? Look, that can happen. I think it will be about how much better. Where is Furtado looking more comfortable? But remember, they traded up to get Broderick, and Broderick came from better school. And is Broderick how much? So where's Furtado feeling comfortable because he's a rookie coming in? And does Jones look better at left tackle already, but with limited playtime there, than he does at right tackle? Because if that is, then it's easier to say for Furtado, well, rather than eventually making a right tackle, because we want Broderick to be a left tackle, we're going to put you there. Now, some of this comes down to money. Guys want to be designated a left tackle versus a right tackle. Broderick will want that. There's also a mentality with a right-handed quarterback around having a left tackle and a quality left tackle, and the idea that the left tackle will also take the persona, and you hear it in Broderick the way he talks, that he wants to be the guy that's responsible for the blind side there. I think they should put Jones there. I do, and I think with the run game and the tendencies of Najee Harris to run to that side, whereas Warren tends to be kind of a little bit all over the place, and I could try and pull that up for you with next-gen stats, I kind of prefer Jones to be on the left. They've kind of voiced that. You're going to go for Tana, who can play anywhere, who's agile. He's also, and again, I don't want to give away some of the things I've got in the mix, but I think it's Owenhu, the offensive lineman for the Patriots. He plays on the right side. A lot of people have him as a right guard, but he plays right tackle, and he does very well. And he's barely over 6'3". He's probably half an inch shorter than Furtado. Very capable guy. You're probably better to do that on the right side in the NFL. And also, Broderick and Darnell played a lot on the left side at Georgia as well. So there's kind of that mix to think about. Plus, you also look at when I said there about where the running back lanes happen. And Jaylen Warren, if you look at a lot of big plays, does flip out to the right. And often it's like a quick pass over the top. It's a run on shotgun. It's these third down sort of style. You probably want that side with Furtado, who can keep pace with Warren, who's a bit more quick twitch, a bit more fast release compared to a Najee Harris. So that kind of is my thinking at the moment with Furtado. But I think it's just a battle for camp. The camp's going to And I'm back. I don't know what happened there. I hit the back button again. People know I did that the other week with my infamous mouse. I think I'm going to have to bin this mouse. It is not good. But Mark says, Arthur should be able to create some screens in the passing game for Naj, for sure. Yeah, this is it. Like, I think what I'm interested to see when we talk about triple threat offense is how Arthur Smith works in both Najee and Warren when they're on the same field. That is going to be absolutely critical to this offense being a triple threat offense and everything being able to do it, like them being able to be a triple threat offense, be productive, keep the first downs, all those good things. Mark says, Siamalo and Furtado on the same side. Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. That could be huge as well. But I also like the idea of Daniels with Siamalo because of the agility that Daniels has, and also with Frazier pulling to that side because the thing is, if you line up in a set where you've got Darnell next to Broderick and you've got Siamalo in there, your run game is going to be able to fire every time out to the left. But then, and Frazier can pull around there, right? But then on the other side, you can do a short pass over the top to Warren because you could line them both. You could line up Warren and Najee in the backfield here. So you've got like a passing one side, running on the other. Running on the other, that's my left, and passing on the other, short passing. Or the quarterback could roll out there. Like they could do playoff action. The quarterback rolls out. He's got the blocking there with Warren as well, because we know how good a blocker Warren is, particularly on an impact block. And then that will open up a lane for Russ, who likes to roll out to that side, and for Fields. So this is where this sort of idea of a triple threat offense really starts to come into play. It's really quite interesting. But JJ says, I trust them to put them on the correct sides. Exactly. I do prefer them to pick and stick, like just give the guy the spot, let him earn his stripes, accept that he's a rookie. We're gonna have to eat the lumps that he has as much as we're going to celebrate the highs, or the highs and the troughs, whatever analogy you want to use. But ultimately, we want to see this team score points and want to see this team win, make that happen this year. And Thomas Martin says, I doubt if they let a true rookie start on the left, Jones has a urine. Exactly. And as I said, I think in this idea of like segmenting or structuring the offense, distributing the offense, I do think Broderick makes sense more on the left. I do think that. Mark says, right, JJ, window shopping as a fan in offseason is that's it, right? Like we can say everything we want. It's kind of fun to be the armchair GM. I kind of wanted to, for a couple of days, been like, I want to get on the Madden side of things and just trial this out, but I've been busy doing videos. Sipping, how was this for Christmas? My wife got me a Steelers touching on a mug. I love it. It's awesome. George says, good now. Yeah, I accidentally hit the back button on this mouse. I usually have it disabled, but I fiddled with a setting the other day and it didn't work. So I don't know. Mark Lancaster says, well, that's it, right? There should be, I don't know. It'd be funny if there's some like fantasy league that we can run or something like that. But it's pretty crazy. I'm thinking one thing I'm going to try and do. There's a site you can go to that has all the old Steeler games. I'm thinking about doing a retro game live stream later on when we get, between the big gap between we get OTAs and mini camp and training camp. I'm thinking about doing a retro live game one as well. And I'm going to try and pick a game that I haven't seen in a while or that I've never seen before, and just watch it and just enjoy it and look, just something different. I'm going to try and do that. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. The black and yellow. Thank you. Where I actually got a quote about printing them as well. So yeah, I like this one. People say I'm desecrating my flag, but no. JJ says, in the old Madden games, I used to run the ball as much as possible, then hit dead on play action. 100%. I used to have a mate when we played Madden, my first mate that we ever played Madden with, he had at his house in 2004. He had Madden 02, and then he got Madden 04 because we played it heaps. His parents bought it for his birthday because I just used to play it all the time when I was at his house. He used to, like, on running plays, set punt blocks. And when I was first figuring out the game, I didn't realize what he was doing. And then when I figured out he did a pump block, I did this play action. I think I was like St. Louis Rams in that game. This before, like, I watched the Steelers specifically. Like, it was just, we played Madden. We played NFL out on the, in the backyard, but we like threw an NFL ball around and we played Madden, but we didn't watch anything, right? We were like, literally like 11 or something. Anyway, 12, whatever it was. Anyway, so yeah, we used to do it. And then I remember this play action over the top and I accidentally killed him. I actually once punted the ball and he wasn't expecting it. I did an audible by accident. I literally pressed the wrong button and I called an audible and I punted the ball. But then my gunner got there and managed to get the ball. And Madden back in that day let you score off a punt like that. It was, I don't know what was going on. So that was funny. Do I think Edwards could be the third running back? Yeah, this is an interesting one for sure. I definitely think, yeah, there's a lot for them to consider. Mark says, JJ Righto, Chappie. Yep. Still Nation Australia says, yeah, the old school, they were, man. They were so good. Yeah, JJ, I want to do a retro. I've been thinking about this for a really long time. I even thought about it in the lead up at the end of the season. I thought about when we could do it, but Omar Khan, man, the Khan artist and White or the Wizard have been freaking working, man. So, just like Tomlin. So there's just been so much to cover that it hasn't necessarily made sense, but I think it will make sense at that time and get us hyped for the season. Mark Lancaster says the Prince of Darkness is always interesting. Choose one. Yeah, I will. Maybe I'll pick an overtime one. Maybe I'll have to find an overtime one that no one's watched in like a heck ton of time. And see. I'll have to try and find one. Maybe you jump on me, Mikey D. We'll do it, and we'll find one that we both haven't watched or something. So, or you know what? I will ask Shannon, and I'll get him on, and I'll ask him what one of his favorite games was, and then I'll try and do it where I don't look up I'll try and find it without looking up the score. That would be funny. Gracie says if the Steelers can't get who they want, the Steelers can't get who they want, get who they need, get a good dude. Yes. Okay. I'm not on Zay Jones that got released. I'm on DJ Chalk. I am very high on DJ Chalk. I'll bring him up, actually, before we go into the next screen. I may as well just bring him up. I did a video about him 2 days before free agency started, I think it was, on the channel. Really high on DJ Chalk. I completely agree. I think he would fit this offense. I think he'd be a real weapon. One thing I don't know about how well he does or doesn't do is his blocking capability. I think it costs you about $5 million a year on about that. But this is a guy with like 3,000 receiving yards. This will be his 7th year in the league. He's had 23 TDs. Used a lot in Jacksonville at the start. Then they kind of went off him. Had an okay year in Detroit. Had 5 TDs last year in a terrible and 500 yards in a terrible Carolina offense. He would be, with the, junior high kid at quarterback. See you, mate. See you, Jer. Awesome. Stay listening. Yeah, but drive safe. DJ Chalk is super fast. The guy's like, I think he's like we'll look him up on Pro Football Reference, but I think he's like 208 pounds and like 6'4". They have him at 6'3", 200 pounds. That's wrong. I've seen him at 6'4". He's a tall, wide receiver, but you could bulk him up. You could use him in a few different ways, but this guy's going to give you speed. Look, his catch percentage is pretty low. You see a career average of 55.4%, but he's a guy that you throw up to get a lot of 50-50 balls. And he's kind of like, remember when we first got Boykin and we're like, oh, he was underused with the Ravens and he could be a really good possession wide receiver. And ended up being really just a gunner for the Steelers. You could get out of DJ Chalk what we wanted to get out of Gunner. He's definitely a productive guy. And like Roman Wilson, he's not going to have a cry about getting 5 targets in a game and only going for 20 or 30 yards. This guy's used to being the second or the third guy. Oh, hey, Toddy. Welcome. Thank you. And I get it's dinner time or it's like late in the US on the East Coast, you guys. Some people might be getting ready for bed, all that good stuff. Australia, it's lunchtime, which is why I'm taking a quick lunch break out of my workday. But yeah, so when it comes to DJ Chalk, he could be I'm really glad someone else brought him up, Gracie as well. Like that's awesome. Really good in bringing him up because he could fit this. And the reason why he makes sense right now, the Steelers got to give 0 draft capital for the bloke. Cost him. If Gallup signed at $3 million a year, you probably, like I originally said, you need to sign him at like $3 or $4 million plus incentives on a 2 or 3 deal. You don't even do that. Remember, the guy's only turning 28 this year as well. You could get this guy easily for about the $3 million or 2.5 with incentives. He's not. If Gallup was only worth $3 million to the Raiders, and it's interesting to see what Boyd or Renfro go for. DJ Chalk, you might even get him on vet minimum. I think he's still available with other people. He's the sort of guy that's probably waiting for post-draft, waiting for camp, waiting for an injury. But I'm the Steelers. He would be awesome. And to pair him on the field with George Pickens, you would open up the field for quarterback runs. Equally, you would open up the passing game with the lanes that are going to be created by this new offensive line as well. And he could block in space too. So yeah, this in the screen game, this is where a DJ Chalk could be really helpful as well. Over the slot, deep. He's actually a really versatile wide receiver. So that's an awesome comment, Gracie. Thank you for contributing that one. Yeah, no 4 was good. I remember we played the heck out of that. 09 was really good as well because you had the Steelers Super Bowl team. I played the heck out of the 09 game. I also got that because my parents didn't let me have a PlayStation. Was it a 3 then? No, 2. I wasn't allowed one until it was my final year of school until I got into college. Then they gave me one, and man, I played the crap ton out of that thing. Madden 09, one of the best. Always. So DJ Chalk's pretty fast. I think he ran a 4.52 off the top of my head, but big possession guy, big body guy. It'd be crazy. Mark says he's off to watch the Buccos. Colorado at a lead of double, pissing off lads. Thanks for joining in, Mark. Crazy. Is Chalk better than Hayward Bay from a receiving perspective? Yeah, 100. I don't know. Like Chalk on special teams though. let's have a look at what snaps he's played on special teams. I don't know. I don't think they particularly use him at Carolina on special. Yeah, so he's only played he hasn't played special teams since 2018. So it might come down to whether the Steelers think he needs to play special teams. But to me, if you look at the hierarchy right now, he and Wilson will be fighting for they're probably both 2Bs right now, if we're honest. Van Jefferson's a 3A. So you're not necessarily getting up, but we've talked about this. Shannon talks about it a lot through the draft weekend and prior to that. Pickens doesn't want to be the wide receiver number 2 in the Steelers offense. He doesn't. And so he might only accept that for 1 year. The Arthur Smith offense generally has the second wide receiver only getting 500 yards. DJ Chark kind of fits the bill. So I'm just really glad we brought that one up. I did want to bring up, sort of to close it out, because we've talked about all the other things we've gotten pretty deep into the show. I do want to talk about overall yardage last year. Obviously, we know the Steelers were crap. By Matt Canada got better after that. It got the yardage increased throughout the season. Obviously, Denver was behind that, but Javonte Williams didn't hit the mark with them. The offense was all over the place, so pretty low there. But if you look at Atlanta, they were 17, and I don't think Arthur Smith had the weaponry, certainly not at quarterback, and even at running backs that he has at the Steelers. I think he's really excited to be here. And, Mike Tomlin has said Russell Wilson, Justin Fields are all scolded. So Atlanta will have, they were 400 or 500 yards ahead of the Steelers were. Yeah, 500 yards ahead of what the Steelers were. So that bodes well for the Steelers. And in considering Arthur Smith's probably even better than that. If you went another 500 yards on top, let's just all things being equal, because Chicago were almost 5,500 yards. But if you were to go 500 yards more on what the Atlanta Falcons achieved, you've got a top 10 offense in this league. You've got a top 8 offense in this league. And it starts to look a lot like the Philadelphia offense with 6,024 yards. If we look at the yards that these guys got to, let's model ourselves on, let's say, a Philadelphia. 3,800 pass yards. That was obviously really low compared to what a lot of the other teams. Like the Steelers, we had 3,100 yards, right? But Denver, obviously with Russ, they had 3,200 yards. He didn't throw for necessarily a heap. And at Chicago, they had 3,000 yards in the passing game. So that's kind of going to be the base, I guess, pass mark for the Steelers in terms of that. But if the Steelers can get 5,800 yards, that would be my goal. You get a top 12 offense, right? If you get the 5,800 yard mark, that could be really, really good for their prospects. I do think that's going to only happen, though, as I said, through a triple threat offense. And that's what the goal has got to be as we think about them adding this wide receiver. Now, if you look at rush yards overall, this is where obviously the Steelers jumped way back, compared to the rest of the league. And that's something that I think as well, this dual threat situation is going to be really interesting, or triple threat situation, if we can get there with the creativity of the running backs. The Steelers had 2,000 yards. They were 13. They were way back from the top 10. But it's not crazy to think that they could jump in here. Denver were 18. They didn't have that running game. They relied solely on Russ. Chicago had the second best run game. Fields accounts for about 600-700 yards of the 2,300. So he accounts for 28% off the top of my head. He or Wilson if they can get, whoever's starting at quarterback, if they can get 400 or 500 yards, we're all saying Najee Harris should get 1,100 yards, particularly if he's playing for a new contract. We all think Warren's capable of that. Plus, you've got Cordell Patterson. Plus, you've got some of the other receivers they could use, like a Roman Wilson. If anything contributes 150 yards, if the Steelers can get 2,500 yards, Trey Bears 1 yard off 2,400, they're going to go very deep into the playoffs. They're going to win a lot of games, and they're going to play really well in the AFC North. So it's pretty exciting stuff, all things being said. But yeah, I just wanted to bring you the concept of the triple threat offense, because the Steelers have got weaponry now in quarterbacks that can throw and run. In Fields, he could catch the football. In Plumlee, he can do that sort of thing. You've got a triple threat guys in Darnell Washington could even do things from a fullback run. Connor Haywood, Cordell Patterson, they can block, pass, run. Jalen Warren's in there in the mix as well. So it's a really interesting and when even triple threat, it's a very diverse offense that the Steelers are building. They help themselves by getting an O-line that can support them in the run, in the pass, in pulling and creating a screen game and creating running lanes for the quarterback. So now it's kind of just, we're talking about letting Russ cook. We talked about Omar Khan cooking in the draft. The person that's now, the sous chef, if you like, or better than the sous chef, needs to be Arthur Smith in this offense as the offseason rolls on. But it's going to be really exciting as they go through the mini camp and they go through full training camp and all that sort of stuff to see how they're starting to come together and build this. But I will say this, if they go get a big name wide receiver like a Metcalf, like a McLaurin, even particularly like a Debo, someone like that, then suddenly you're opening up a deep passing game. But right now the Steelers are limited in terms of what Pickens can do, but he will get double teamed in the current setup. So they can do that. They're opening up a passing game layer or level, if you like. And they're kind of getting to like a third phase. Or I know there's people in the live chat that know Dragon Ball Z. It's kind of like Super Saiyan deep passing game, and that could be crazy. But they've started building it, and JJ basically says it here without saying it, is that he hopes the offense worked well. It's changed a lot, which is basically what they've done. They've made sure that the offense can do bread and butter at the line of scrimmage, keep the quarterback clean, which they need to do with Russ and Fields. They're the most sacked quarterbacks last year. Create running lanes, get rush yards. They've got guys who can catch the football. Now they've got to work in play action. And that is where a DJ Chalk or a Terry McLaurin could be hugely helpful for them, particularly if it's Pickens that's the one that's running an intermediate route, and you've got McLaurin or a DJ Chalk or a DK Metcalf running the deeper route. It is going to be one, and then you can just Pickens only's got to beat one defender, and we saw how quick-footed, quick step, or juke movies we call it in the NFL, with Pickens being there. So it's pretty crazy, and I do think the Steelers are building triple threat offense, especially with this X factor potentially UDFA in Plumlee as well. But that's kind of wrapped up everything that I wanted to cover in this show. Happy to stay on for a little bit quick of Q&A from anyone out there. I've tried to cover off the questions as we've gone through the live chat, but let me know if you've got any other questions. I will sort of say that I'm previewing the draft value show. It's really interesting to see where the Steelers got value. Everyone talks about the Peyton Wilson pick as being really good value, but in fact, like, you actually look before that pick, they were already well ahead on the value charts for draft picks. So, pretty epic draft when we look back on this in terms of where it is. And Logan Lee, we've got a video of him on the channel as well, but I'm really high on Logan Lee. And I think over the next year or two, that's going to add a whole extra layer of value in the way that we interpret this Steelers draft. But thank you for hanging with me. Apologies, I dipped out for like a split 2 seconds as well. I need to make sure that I do not hit the back button anymore on my mouse. It's pretty annoying there. What have we also got coming up on the channel since we've got no Q&A happening now? We have Shannon White and I will be back with the Steelers Global Perspective content this week. Got a couple of different interesting and creative things that we're going to be covering across that sort of series of content. We do have Marky D and I are trying to do a live stream. I think it'll probably be next Friday night, if we can. Marky D had Bubba and Shane on. I've had some emails with them as well. So I think we're going to try and tee something up soon. I'd love to give Big G back in a couple of weeks to talk about a couple of things. So a few other people that I'm talking to. It was awesome to have Jeffrey Benedict on the channel too. He's got a lot going on outside of Steelers land, but we'll try and touch base with him at some point as the off-season rolls on. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. Lots of diverse content to come. As I said, I've got Ryan Watts one in the pipeline. We've got another Logan Lee one in the pipeline. We've got I've got the draft value one coming tomorrow. We've got Steelers Global Perspective stuff. There's a couple. I've got a Plumlee one on the way. It's just nuts right now. There's so many different topics. I want to get the Najee Harris one out. Obviously, it's May 1 here in Australia. I'll wake up tomorrow. It's May 2. We'll probably have a decision, if not the following day, on Najee's fifth-year option. Go check out the video. We talked about that and why and what makes sense. I know the Steel fan base is kind of split, fifth-year option, extension. But it sounds like most people want to keep him, and that's the way it should be. And that's really going to be key to the triple threat offense. JJ52 says, it almost feels like Fatano was an extra pick. They could have selected I like that take, man. I like that take because they could have traded back and if they'd taken Frazier in round 1, you couldn't have criticized it because it was the biggest hole in the roster and you get a 5th-year option. But it does kind of feel like that with Furtado, particularly with Mason McCormick at 4th. Mason McCormick probably could have been up there in a 3rd pick, so it's going to be crazy. Toddy says, we're just starting the Roo, going to be a little while before we can. That's, I like that. I like that. I really, really like that. That's it, man. That's it. 100%. It's like if you, yeah, that was good stuff. JJ52 says biscuits and gravy. Yum. Man, you guys getting me hungry. It's lunchtime. I sat on here doing lunchtime with you guys. Now I'm hungry. I'm going to have to end this stream and go eat some lunch. I'm hungry. But stay tuned for more to come. Thanks for tuning in live. This makes it possible with the live chat. Always good to get your stuff. You know, I wasn't planning on talking about DJ Chalk, and there you go. Gracie brought it up. I did do a deep dive into him on the channel. So, you know, if you're interested in finding out more about DJ Chalk, JJ52, you want Corey Trice updates? I can tell you this, and I could even pull up my window to prove it right now that I've got sitting open. I've got another window sitting open. I'm doing a bit of an avatar battle right now in the stats. That's kind of the content shaping up between Corey Trice and Ryan Watts, because there's Mark. I've got some frozen ones, man. I could have one of them. But back to Corey Trice. It's funny. A lot of people are out on Ryan Watts, but high on Corey Trice. Even though I think Ryan Watts ultimately projects as a safety, I do think that it's an interesting concept that we can all be. Mikey D said, like, we've got to give the guy a chance. Like, they're actually a lot more comparable than what a lot of people give credit for. So it's kind of an interesting, situation. But I'll drop the DJ Chalk one into the live chat. If people are watching on replay, I drop it in the comments as well. If you guys have a look at, if people aren't familiar with DJ Chalk and what I saw there as well originally. But yeah, exciting times. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for being a supporter of the channel. If you're new to the channel, hit the like, hit the sub button, do whatever you want. But the like button tells me which content you like, which content you didn't. Don't hit a download though. That's kind of crap for the algorithms, as Big J would say. But the like helps me know what you guys like more than anything else. All right, everyone. As always, go Steelers.